Cross.
Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm a singer.
Hi, my name is Peyton, and I am a dancer.
And today, what are we doing today?
Today, we are back with more Dreamcatcher reactions.
Yes, so we are watching the last two Dreamcatcher Korean title tracks that we have left to catch up on. So after this video, we'll be done with our Korean title tracks, and just so y'all know, we usually don't react to Japanese releases because copyright issues, they always end up getting blocked somewhere. The two videos that we're watching today are What and then PD, and these are both installments in the Nightmare series.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go!
Let's go!
2018.
Are they in the same formation as the icicles and now they're inside the snow globe? I just assume everything symbolizes something in Dreamcatcher.
I mean, you're probably not wrong, but I didn't even think about that. Oh. Oh.
Oh. This is a lot like more delicate in parts in the dance.
Oh. This is so classical. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, the line. The singular line.
Monsters under the bed.
Oh?
They're going like this. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Her rap is very percussive this time. Oh.
It turns as the drums go back up.
Oh. Oh.
They're definitely in the snow globe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, so as with every Dreamcatcher reaction, I am going to attempt to fill in where this is in the storyline. Obviously in the music video, they're all sort of stuck in the different nightmares that they represent. So they're all trapped somewhere. But then that was making me think about how at the end of one of the last ones, they left a member trapped in a different world. They needed to figure out how to help her escape. And then that was also making me think back to the earlier ones and how it seemed to have a lot to do with like witchcraft and how there was like the spell book that was a recurring theme, because there was a split second where it showed the spell book with like a blue flower growing out of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the key to solving it. And that interpretation is important for how I interpreted parts of the dance. So I said during the reaction, it is a little more delicate than some of the other dances that we've seen from them. That makes sense, especially given my interpretation of this like storyline where this fits, because it was sort of reminding me of when you're really nervous about something, or like when you wake up from a nightmare and you feel very like kind of uncomfortable, like you're very conscious of your surroundings and very kind of careful with how you're moving or how you're acting in those moments. And that was coming across in a dance. Some examples would be like the hands that I was kind of mimicking during it, or their turns especially stuck out to me because Dreamcatcher usually uses turns as transition moments between positions, but they're usually super crisp and like very one place to another, but these were almost kind of floated. They had this like up and down motion to them. They're very light. And just in general, a lot of their movements are sort of like floaty, like they're sort of stuck in this other space, in this other realm. And they also extend a lot, especially the verse choreography. Their movements never like hit and stay. It's kind of extending through the whole music. And that does contrast with the moments where there's sharper choreography, which was concentrated in the chorus, especially on the what's, because it was in such contrast to the rest of the choreography. That really stuck out and felt more desperate, like sort of trying to escape or trying to protect yourself, depending on which movement they were doing at the time. But there were also parts of it that were a little bit sinister, which I thought was cool. It was like the nightmare coming through. Like the one that really stuck out to me was the very beginning when they sort of lean out of the line one at a time and they're touching the person in front of them. They like wrap their hand around the side of their head, which is really sinister. Like just controlling the head at all gives a sinister feeling. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Anna's turn.
Hello. So for my comments, first thing out of the way, the song is in minor. Not surprising. It just starts off with this note, the singular note, which is what lets you know what key the song is in, because it's on the do, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then it has that whole drum kit, do, 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 sort of fall into the rest of the song. Right after that, it has really intense electric guitar, which like I know that's a big thing for Dreamcatcher's sound. Also in the intro before the verses start, the what's, and they're syncopated. And that's what comes back in the chorus as the hook. I mean, obviously for their storyline, they have those words at the end of each what. Oh, 나를 깨워 이제. Yeah, so it's like, wake me up now, please. It's like a plea for help. One comment that I like threw away in the reaction was like, oh, this is very classical. And what I meant by that was just because there's so many strings in it that are very obvious, but also just the whole format of the song and the way that they're moving. I think the simplest way to describe it, because I don't have time to explain, is that like the drama and the way that it moves feels very like orchestral. I mentioned it has that one singular string line. I think it's during the pre-chorus. It's very high, but they also have deeper strings as well. Ones that imitate more of a cello sound. It's the same way with the electric guitar too. Like they have the higher pitched electric guitar lines, and those are there from the beginning, but later in the song, around like the second half of the first verse-ish, they introduce a deeper, lower pitched electric guitar line as well. To point out one thing that I thought was really interesting, it only happens in the second pre-chorus, I believe. Towards the end of it, they have this quieter upper harmony. It's harmonizing the melody, background vocals being sung. I thought that was really interesting though when I heard it, because that harmony is mimicking the tone and sound of the brighter, higher strings that you hear during the pre-chorus. Before, I've talked in previous Dreamcatcher reactions how, especially like during high intensity moments, their vocals will blend with the tone and sound of the electric guitar that's present in their songs. So it's just like happening again, but with a different instrument. So I just thought that was cool. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was how I mentioned Tammy's rap is more percussive this time. And I'm not just talking about when she says like the tikita, kung, like actual like percussive words. Like that definitely is what made me think of it more. But like her diction for other syllables and like other words were more reflective of that rhythmic percussive feeling. So that's all I had to say. Next! Okay, so now we are watching the last of Dreamcatcher's Korean title tracks that we have left to react to, which is PD. Let's go!
Go!
Everything is white.
Where's this gonna fit in? This sort of reminds me of how in movies when you're stuck, like, they perceive like purgatory, like stuck somewhere. Oh, similar beginning as what?
But symmetrical.
Oh.
Whistling.
두 눈을 감은 순간 검은 공간 나 홀로 남겨져 다시 눈을 떠도 눈을 깨도 내 현실은 다르지 않아
Oh.
Just give me
Tainted.
chills.
When the dream turns into a nightmare.
끝없이 반복되는 지금 길 잃어 헤매고 있지만 너에게 닿을 수 있다면 피리를 불어라
Time.
피리를 불어라 끝없이 난 down 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 for me 시간이 없어 now is not
Let me see that.
너밖에 없어 save me now me 난 emergency 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 아무 소리 없는 꿈 온통 나를 보는 눈 yeah, I don't wanna die 너를 찾고 있는 중 yeah. 놓치고 싶지 않아 내게서 날 받아봐 그렇게 쉽지 않아 I better go for a while 처럼 묻혀도
Oh.
끝없이 반복되는 지금 아직도 난 헤매고 있지만
That's creepy.
꼭
Mm.
들을 수 있도록 피리를 불어라
Yes.
Oh no.
Dolls.
No. Oh. I hate the creepy doll thing.
시간이 없어 now it's not too late 너밖에 없어 save me now 난 emergency 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 emergency
Ah, stacking harmonies.
먼저 왔는 밤 푸른 안개가 되어 날 안아줄 수 있다면
Oh, this is pretty, but also creepy.
스며 걸었던 길을 다시 잃어도 네가 오는 날까지도 나는 기다릴 텐데 피리를 불어라 피리를 불어라 끝없이 난 down 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 for me 시간이 없어 now it's not too late 너밖에 없어 save me hold me now now 피리를 불어라
Oh, that's creepy.
Oh.
I mean, like, in a good way. Let's start with music video things. So obviously they're all still trapped within nightmares, but this time it's being presented a little bit differently. Obviously they're dressed in all white, which represents innocence, and then there's all of the things that are tainting it. Like, you literally said that word when the ink or oil or whatever it is spilled. And then also just the dark shadows that cover them up, and just the nightmares themselves are obviously tainting, like, the innocence. The mirror thing really jumped out to me because Yoo-hyun is, I believe, the member that was stuck at the end of Fly High on the other side of the mirror that they couldn't get out. It just stuck out to me because then she's the one that's sitting there, like, staring into the mirror when it kind of wobbles, like the barrier's breaking, like, oh, this is the beginning of the end, like, we're about to get out, like, it's gonna be possible. So I thought that was a good, like, little clue to the fact that the series is starting to draw to a close. But then also the holding hands thing at the end. So I know I said it was creepy, and honestly it still is. Like, 7 people wearing long white dresses holding hands in a line, staring straight forward with blank faces, and then it fades to black. That's creepy. It's supposed to be. But it also stuck out to me when I thought about it a little bit more as an important moment, since we know now, since we're watching this retroactively, that it is going into the finale of the series, as like sort of a banding together moment, because I realized it's really the first time in several music videos that we've seen all of them together in not a dance scene, like in the storyline part of it, and they're like holding hands, kind of like, we're unified, we're gonna get through this together. A couple of things about the dance. So yeah, like we pointed out, similar opening line, but like Anna said, it's symmetrical, so it's like a mirror. And that sort of theme was present throughout it. Again, they've used mirroring a lot in this series ever since Fly High. I think that's a really interesting sort of theme and motif to keep throughout it. There were lots of diagonals in this, and I don't really have an analysis for this. That just always really sticks out to me when there's like a lot of diagonals, and it's not just solo lines, it was also like when they were grouped. It was interesting though that they had some similar movements to What that I had described as being very delicate and more like gentle, like the hands and the arms, but in this one they were being done a lot more dynamically. So I felt like that represented a shift too in resolve to like escape in the storyline. I also thought the way that all of the choreography for when they're going like P-D-D-D-D-D-D-D-D was really interesting, because the body movements and the choreography that was going with that was sort of like rolling through that line as well. And it was just a really nice moment of like illustrating the way that the song is being sung and the way that like the line in the song is going. So it was very pleasing. But the last comment that I had about the dance was that it was interesting because Dreamcatcher choreographies generally, I say, are very intricate and like they have a lot of, they switch up a lot and that sort of thing. But they had not changed the last chorus choreography. They had changed formations for it, so they were actually doing it in a line, sort of like now we're all together. But it was the same choreography. And I was like, wait a second, why am I seeing this again? And so it might have just been a choreographic decision for the song, but also the way I was interpreting it was sort of like being trapped in the same place, like trapped in a nightmare, like you have to keep repeating the same thing. So I thought that was interesting. Anna's turn.
I guess we'll just go kind of in chronological order, not really, maybe. So the first thing I wrote down was that like horn alarm sound that you hear in the beginning caught me completely off guard. My like heart jumped and I got so shocked. And I mean, like, that's sort of what it's supposed to do. Like, this song in itself, I find very beautiful, but also really haunting, because this is, in my opinion, a Dreamcatcher song that is, not that it strays away from their sound, but it has a lot more moments of like pulled back silence. I'm really thinking about the bridge. But anyways, when it's playing with like the PD, the flute sound, whistle sound in the beginning, I like how it establishes that theme, because that comes back and is played throughout the rest of the song, because they also sing lines like that sort of theme as well. But also I thought it was really cool, especially once the verse actually started, sometimes that line would double the melody being sung as it's playing its own like individual line. So just like that part overlap was really cool. Another thing that I kind of mentioned was in the chorus, I was like, oh, they're stacking harmonies. It's the PDD moment that you were talking about for their dance. It's fun because it's not the typical third and fifth above harmonies that you usually hear. The first line of it, the PDD, they have the fourth above as the initial harmony, and then the second line of lilies, they add another seventh. So like they're stacking and layering it, and it is more interesting intervals as well, and it's like crunchy and cool. Next part I wanted to talk about was the bridge, because I kind of said earlier, it's like very hauntingly beautiful, because when it starts, it's just the vocals and the piano, not just like the melody being sung, the background vocals, and not just the harmonies, like the actual background. Like one thing that sticks out to me in my mind is the moment where it's like, ha, because that's something that you use in choral a cappella vocals a lot, where it feels sort of like a sigh when you're like, ha, and you're like letting it out, and it just sort of sinks down, and it does have that effect. I wish they had leaned into it more, but it does have, like, you can hear that they're doing it. And then the second half of the bridge, it's just that electric line going straight down the scale, and then it goes back up to build up into the final chorus. And the last thing that I wanted to say was their killing point line, the Pirita Flora. It's very catchy just because like it is the killing point line, like things go completely silent when it happens, but also it's just a very simple line to stick in your ear since it's but But also one thing I thought was interesting was how, not just based on who's singing it, how it's sung differently, because like everyone has different voices and tones, but based on where it's being sung in the song, it's also different for like the storyline that's happening. Towards the beginning, it was kind of like, I don't know, sassier, more stylistic that way, but then there are moments like towards the end when it's being sung, it's like shocked child, that innocence, like someone come save me, that sort of thing. It's very interesting. So yeah, that's all I had to say.
That being said, TLDR for this video is now that we have watched What and PD, we are completely caught up on Dreamcatcher Korean title tracks. Wow, it took us a while to get there.
It was poor
Sorry
planning
about
on our
that.
part, we know.
Yeah, it was just really bad planning on our part, but we learned from this for future planning. But I think it's safe to say that through this journey, we have learned a lot about Dreamcatcher and their sound, their style, and also are just very intrigued by these storylines that they set up. And I just want to know if we're right, if we're wrong, what they're going to do next. So,
yeah. But that being said, if you enjoyed this video and have enjoyed watching all of our Dreamcatcher reactions, even though a lot of them have been out of order, once again, sorry about that, poor planning, then please leave a like, comment, subscribe,
ding.
turn on your notification bell,
PD.
and bye!